Welcome, everybody, to the Tipped and Stiffed podcast with your hosts, Cade Alvarez and
Jarod Sturridge.
Today, it's a very interesting episode. It is, what is it? Is November
21st.
The 21st?
Mm-hmm.
This is days, maybe 2 days after the
Friday.
Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. Now, to preface this, we live in Kenosha. The majority of our listeners are also from Kenosha. But if anyone's outside of this, which we do have some, we can literally see where people are from.
Right.
We experience firsthand just about every step that took place in this entire process.
Mm-hmm. From before even August 25th. From before that day, things were happening that whole summer.
Right. Pandemic. People still were debating whether they believe in viruses or not. And we are, this isn't like coming from what we're going to say on this podcast is not coming from a place of like ignorance. Like we literally live here. Like we knew, like we know when certain things were said about this city that were just wrong because we were there. Mm-hmm. We knew what happened.
We saw what was happening. We knew what misinformation was there and what misinformation was after the fact.
Right.
Added onto it by the news. So
much so that even our producer, Bryce, was even at the courthouse just filming on the 25th. So like that's how close we are to this. I legitimately can take, a 15-minute walk from where I used to live to where a lot of businesses were burned down. Mm-hmm. Like that's, I'm talking about a walk. Like 50 minutes is a long time. A walk. Yeah. I could take a walk to there, not a drive. A drive would have taken me 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. So we were even working during some of the possible like chaos.
Right.
So I think we were saying this though because like, I know you get pissed about this too. I also get pissed about this when you see somebody like either it's on Twitter or it's on Facebook or it's on the news who is nowhere near anything to do with this part of the country, and they're talking as if they know exactly how this kind of place works and how the people here work.
They're like, they just know they were born and raised here.
As if they were born and raised.
And all of America is the same America. As if that's couldn't be further from the truth. Right. So we of course are going to talk about the verdict.
Yeah.
I'm sure all of you know, but Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty on all charges, which from the get, and we talked about this, I was surprised by. Mm-hmm. Of course, I paid very close attention to the case. I could have swore he was going to get charged with something, but what people don't understand about the justice system is that when the state chooses the charges, those are the charges that we go from. When someone gets charged with lesser charges, that is because the state is looking for a deal to at least get the defendant some time, and that they've come to a realization that they overcharged them. Right. So if you charge someone with first-degree murder, it doesn't mean they didn't commit murder. It just means that if they get not guilty on first-degree murder, it just means that they, in the confines of the law, they didn't commit first-degree murder. That's how this works. So that's something that people need to keep in mind. Right. It doesn't mean that if Kyle Rittenhouse is not guilty, doesn't mean he's not a bad guy. It really doesn't mean that. It truly doesn't mean that he
doesn't mean he didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't mean that there wasn't some sort of wrongness along the way.
What I feel like people are missing, there is such a broader point that is being missed in this entire case. Because truly, if the justice system is broken, which it is, right? We're also dealing with a justice system that is dealing with judges that have to stay professional and take their politics out of it, which, you know, some people agree or disagree on. There's clearly some judges who don't do that. Again, judges are people. There's plenty of it's not like a conspiracy then like Chicago during the mob times and then New York that judges were bought and paid for.
Of course.
They clearly can be corrupted like any other individual. Lawyers, again,
I mean, even easier to buy.
they are
bought.
They are literally
paid
bought
for.
and paid for, and sometimes by a GoFundMe. You know, we have and then a jury full of, you know, good old Midwestern Kenoshan citizens, which can also be manipulated by depending on who picks the jury. But I believe this time they did it via a raffle.
Yeah.
By a raffle. So if we're going through that, just to say, Kyle Rittenhouse should not have been at the protest. Kyle Rittenhouse should not have had an AR-15 at the protest. Kyle Rittenhouse should not have walked around Kenosha pretending to be an 18-year-old EMT, which he did. Kyle Rittenhouse should not have pretended to be this fantasy. He was playing a fantasy that night. It wasn't real. From the evidence, I've watched hours of the trials. I've sat at home. I listened to it.
I watched his whole testimony.
I watched the closing. I watched his testimony. I watched the testimony of the people who own the car source laws. I watched the testimony of McGinnis. I watched the testimony of Kaminsky. I watched the testimony of many, many people.
What was his name? Grosskreutz, the guy who was shot in the arm? Was that his name?
No. Was it Grosowitz? It was either Kaminsky or Grosowitz.
Grosskreutz or something. The guy who was shot in the arm.
In the arm. And then the two victims were Anthony Hubert and Rosenbaum. I don't know Rosenbaum's first name.
I think it was Michael.
The one who was shot in the arm, his name's Gage Grosskreutz.
Sorry, Gage Grosskreutz, not Kaminsky. I don't know where I got that. Gage Grosskreutz. Grosskreutz. Okay.
Yeah.
Grosskreutz. That's a hard name.
And Joseph Rosenbaum.
Okay, Joseph. Listen, let's just go from just the video, because the moment that the Kyle Rittenhouse thing happened, everyone thought they were a lawyer. But now that we're past that and we had a whole trial, I got to be honest with you, I don't think Rosenbaum represents the BLM movement very well. When he's going around Kenosha yelling the N-word and threatening to kill
children and just random people because he wants to burn things down and they don't want to have things on fire.
Not part of the remember when we're talking about it's frustrating when people try to use legitimate injustice towards marginalized groups to cause havoc. Rosenbaum was one of those people. He was calling, there's literally a video of him, screaming the N-word at people. I'm just saying, have you met anyone who's a really hard BLM supporter who just repeatedly says the N-word?
And who's white presenting?
I don't know that. That doesn't come up.
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
But to be fair, and because we're joking about it, if you say the N-word, does that mean you should be shot? Of course not.
No. Only if you attack somebody, maybe he tried to.
If you threaten somebody's life and chase them, and you're literally there was multiple witnesses saying that he was walking around with a chain and whipping it at
this is why I get defensive about the people who, when riots were happening in Kenosha, people we know, sometimes even family that we knew that lived here, who when they knew this was happening, when this started getting crazy and the news was saying that there were more people coming and there was a lot of misinformation being told that there was hundreds of people coming from Minneapolis.
Right.
There's
people from Oregon here in Washington.
Yeah, and there actually were some people here. I did not blame the people who wanted to defend their house or neighborhood, who thought that maybe there was some fear of that because they're defending something that actually is theirs. First of all, they're defending family that they love and that is theirs and that is innocent and has nothing to do with it.
Those three neighbors that are their small community.
Exactly. The things that's the same thing as protecting your neighbors who you might be afraid the cops are going to hurt.
Right.
That's a different thing than what Rittenhouse did.
Right.
at the same
completely
time,
different.
At the same time, I feel as if he went for similar reasons, but in his young, like
17-year-old.
voyeuristic kind of mind, he went and he like tried to participate in a way that only an adult could physically try to participate.
Kyle, you can tell before, like with all the evidence that was brought up of who he was, is annoying.
He's a gamer.
He's an annoying kid. Like
Yeah.
he was an annoying kid. He's an annoying adult now.
Congrats, Kyle.
Like
You made it.
he literally thought he would tell people he was an EMT. He was a lifeguard. Like he had CPR. He had CPR training.
Other life support. He had a few life support.
He had defibrillator training.
Yeah.
And those are great. You're not an EMT though. Someone gets shot, you're not going to know really what to do.
Right.
Like a real EMT does.
All I know what he did was he
Help somebody with like a ankle.
It's like a sprained ankle.
Yeah.
And there was somebody there was something else where somebody was like I don't know, they were
like
injured
pepper
and
spray
they
in
were
their eye or something.
I think they were pepper sprayed or they were incapacitated nearly in some way, and he like helped them.
At the end of working with them, the most help that he gave them was suggesting they go to the hospital that was up the street. So that fantasy, this kid is dumb. First of all, the amount of institutions that have failed in this process, his parents,
the family
failed their son. His friends should not be buying guns for him.
Yeah, this is something weird. His friends are a bunch of older dudes.
Yeah,
who I feel like probably influenced a lot of his belief that he was more capable and like mature than he actually was, which is a problem that we see in every community group race. Like that's a thing that happens across the board to young men. I think specifically that can happen. So what's that a failure of? Like what's that a failure of? I mean, there's some sort of
it's a failure
institution
of purpose. That's what it is.
A failure of purpose.
It's the failure of the family, the failure of friends, the failure of community, the failure of schools, the failure of the police, the failure of our government are all roles in the creation of Kyle Rittenhouse. The mass failure of those institutions. Yeah. Because nobody, like, you have to think, his parents should have been like, hey, don't do that. Don't do that. You turn to your kid in that moment and go, we will disown you. Don't go to the riots with an AR-15, you moron, unless they were okay with it, which is an entirely another problem, right? Then his friends are like, I'll buy you a gun. And I get, listen, it's, Wisconsin gun culture is, they give kids them.
It's not always willy-nilly. It's usually for like a purpose of, like, I feel like most people in that culture are using it for like a vague, more like not violent purpose. They're not using it just to look.
Because he literally said in his testimony, the reason he bought it was not to hunt.
He said
you can't use an AR-15 to go bird shooting. I mean like clay birds.
You can't deer hunt. You can deer hunt with an AR.
You can deer hunt, but he wasn't going hunting. Right. He wasn't going hunting. And a lot of ranges in Illinois, you can't even shoot an AR at. You had to come to Wisconsin to do that. So, and he said he was like, I thought it was cool. I wanted to go to the gun range. And even the prosecutor was like, you couldn't have bought any other gun. You couldn't have gotten a shotgun or a pistol. And he goes, well, I can't own a pistol. And he's like, well, you can't own an AR-15 either, but your friend bought it for you. Yeah. And so again, it's delusion. It's a lot of, I want to look cool. AR-15 is extremely politicized. If you're right wing, it almost becomes like I have to have an AR-15 because that's what my team does. We buy AR-15s. So we have that. So this is moronic. He's a dumbass. A lot of the influence around him, also stupid. But when it comes down to the case, if you're 17 years old, you have a gun. First of all, I think we need to make this point clear. If you bring a gun to a riot, the chances of you having to use that gun go up because you have it. So if you're 17, because a lot of people around Rittenhouse, and he was even on the trial, one of the guys he was walking with was an actual ex-Marine. Okay? That guy can hold a gun. I don't have a problem with that guy having a gun. At least he, you know what I mean? Way more experience than fucking a 17-year-old kid right? In high school.
He knows that there's an added risk to him having it as a Marine.
Right. And even the Marine said he got away from him. Even the guy said, he's like, he was being reckless. Some of the things he was saying, I didn't feel comfortable around him. I thought, the guy was like, I thought he was lying about his age, about him being an EMT. So I got away from him. I didn't want to be around him. And almost immediately after that, that's when the shooting took place, was when this guy was like, have fun. You're dumb and you're going to cause something stupid. So on principle, Rittenhouse should have been charged with something, right? But yes, I absolutely agree with that.
I think, and I don't want people to see this as like lessening his like the damage he did, but because of the law, it uses certain words that make it not seem as severe as it actually is.
Right.
But the charge of reckless endangerment with a dangerous weapon, they dropped that first
they
with the gun.
They dropped the gun charges because, and the judge said because the laws were too vague, which when you read the laws that have to do with what is considered a deadly weapon in Wisconsin, they are vague.
Yeah.
And the AR-15 that Kyle Rittenhouse was carrying landed precisely in the middle of what we considered a not deadly weapon and a deadly weapon. And so the judge dropped it because of vague laws, which it is a vague law, which it has to do a lot with, because when you're up north and you're 16 years old and you're with your dad, you can have a rifle on you. It's legal for you to walk around with a rifle. Those are what those laws are in place in. However, we don't have it so specific to where it's about hunting, where you're in an appropriate place with it. Not in the town square. Not on Sheridan, one of the busiest streets in Kenosha. That's not where that rule should apply.
Not during a mass gathering.
Right.
Not during
right,
but a public gathering.
The laws don't talk about it. So, listen.
Well, I was just saying, because he like, everything about what he did was before, I guess, evidence in the case, controversial, self-defense or not. It was controversial until the case, except for the fact that him being there was an added unnecessary risk to an already dangerous and unnecessary level of chaos.
Right, absolutely. And
that's the key here, is that like the scale was already tipping in Kenosha by that point, and him being there only prolonged this city's anxiety,
right?
Like
the trauma,
fear, like racial disputes, and it has stopped us from. It slowed us down from having the ability to actually talk about what got us to that point in the first place, because all we can could focus on was this image of this young white Midwestern kid who we can all paint as this as this source of our hate or source of like our problems, and it's not the case.
And he was fantasized by both sides.
Yeah,
one being a hero.
Yeah, fucking Ann Coulter said he should run for president. I mean,
fucking moronic.
Can we stop with this? Can we stop listening to these skin bags on the left and the right? Like, so what are we doing?
One side is like, he's an American hero. Morons.
He did what the government should have done. That's what one dude on Fox said.
Morons. And on the other side, he's a white supremacist terrorist, which both are wrong.
Yeah.
Both are wrong.
Inaccurate.
Inaccurate because
to his intention and to his actual position in life.
They're both wrong because, first of all, there's like no evidence, zero, of him being a white supremacist. No one at his house was like, no one from his school was like, yeah, Kyle used to like walk around school and like talk about like, yeah, he would, one time for our history class, he was like, he stepped up and he was like, okay, so it happened, but I don't think it was 6 million. It's not like he was walking around.
He started talking about like, the real reason World War I started? like
he's not walking like there was none of that.
No.
And again, that's because, and what people forgot is that calling everybody a white supremacist and a racist and a Nazi really ruins the definition of Nazi, racist, and white supremacist, because what happens is you're going to start polarizing a side where the majority, you don't have okay, you're going to say Donald Trump's racist, sure, I'll agree with you on a lot of that. I think that's fair. and people voted for him. Do I think the majority of people voted for him because he was racist? No, I think a majority of people voted for him because they're ignorant.
Well,
hold on, wait, one more point. Because the majority of Republicans running across the country, besides the big one, are not going like, I think it's good that there's hate crimes in America. No one's saying that. No one is saying like we need to reunite the white. No one is actually running on that podium. Maybe you could make an argument that maybe there's some people's words, there's dog whistling. Of course, I'm not going to ignore that, but I'm saying that is Ron Johnson the senator of Wisconsin because he's a Republican, a white supremacist? No, he's a scumbag in a different way, in a money grabbing way, putting up bullshit laws to put people in jail and stuff like that. That's bad. So that's one thing we have to understand. He wasn't a white supremacist. It was a moronic kid with many failed institutions around him coming to Kenosha where he shouldn't have been with an AR-15, where somebody who was arguably extremely aggressive, yelling the N-word, running around with a chain, starting fires, attacked him, where we have like 7 shots of that happening, and Kyle Rittenhouse killed him. Now, the person who I truly feel bad for that died is Anthony Hubert. And the reason why is because I do believe that Anthony Hubert thought that he was stopping a mass shooter. And that's sad.
That's the crazy part about that, is that it's scary to try to get in the head of the people, and people have been avoiding doing this until it's been now, like getting in the minds of what people around Rittenhouse were thinking at the time. And how does somebody go, because trying to wrap your head around what's happening in that situation it's so chaotic to try to like jump from person to person, because in that situation you probably have some people who don't really know that just happened and hear gunshots and see a person with a gun
running,
like a young person, like a young man with a gun, like running around them, and they might not realize like what's really going on, that this is not, that they don't even know what's happening. They know that they have no idea what's going on. Then you might have other people who saw it, how do you explain that, what happened to a crowd? How do you yell to everybody like, no, it's okay, he's not a mass shooter, he just shot him though. Like he shot him, but like, hey, that's all that happened.
Right.
That's all that's going to happen. Instead, you had everybody, you had a lot of people just assume the worst.
And
which is like, I get it, but it's also like that led to Huber dying and Grosskreutz getting shot.
But do you blame I don't blame them.
I don't blame them.
For trying to stop
if that's
him.
Exactly what happened, maybe I don't think that was probably everybody that was saying get him. I can imagine they were saying get him for a racial reason, for some other reason, that he maybe seemed to represent another side to this when he didn't.
I think the context matters too. He's dressed kind of like a militia
he's
person.
Dressed militantly.
He's green.
Got a gun.
He's dressed like he's an authority. Yeah, that paints him in their minds like that's the personification.
That's the enemy.
That's the enemy.
Right.
And that's I don't blame them, because the problem precedes them actually being there. The problem comes in play when you talk about their political ideology.
Right.
And that's not something that I feel I have the right to really like try to analyze, because there's so many components that it's not about them as much as it's about the deeper problems in the country that led to people being in that mob. It's about the people who gaslight through the media, social media, the celebrity politicians we have, the media who cheers on violence, and like, celebrities who cheer on violence from their fucking house.
Right. And it's sad because, again, this is one of those things, is that the people who have the most privilege, a lot of people are privileged like a lot of people that we know who are getting very, very upset about this whole thing. And you read like how they're talking about it. It's just like, they're at UW-Madison, Yeah, it's like, hey, they
go
pipe down.
They go, unfriend me, unfollow me if if you stand with Kyle Rittenhouse.
It's not standing.
It's like there is no standing with anybody.
Hold on. There's people who are. We're not.
Right.
We're not.
There to have the privilege for that to be your like.
That's your hot take.
That's your hot take. That's your tool. That's your in-group, out-group way of saying like this is where I stand is on Facebook. First of all, dumb. Right. Second, you're saying it from your $40,000 dorm. Third, you don't have to every day, whether it's in Kenosha, part of the black community or part of any marginalized community, be confronted with the pressure of defending your right to like be afraid of things like this happening.
Right.
Like this person we're talking about, you know who we're talking about, but people like this, they don't have to live in that fear.
No, they don't. They never have.
And they pretend like they do all day.
Right.
And it really pisses me off because some of these people I've been friends with.
Let's talk. It's amazing. That's the realest white privilege that there is. That is the most ignorant, boring, completely void of intellectual thought, completely void of understanding nuance, understanding the broader picture, understanding why we are in the position that we are. It's completely going from us and them immediately instead of going, well, why is it us and them? Who's us? Who's them? Why is them, and why is us?
And not taking a second to step back and go, who are we? Like who is this collective we supposed to be, and what are we supposed to be like?
And then the third step, who am I?
Who am I? Yeah.
No, that's not even there.
No. Never get there.
The professor tells them that it's postmodern idea to have a sense of self, and that they shouldn't believe in a sense of self. That it's but that's white supremacy to have a sense of self.
It's I think Kyle Rittenhouse should have been charged. The way the justice system set up, he wasn't charged. Listen, that's the American system. That is technically, in the eyes of this, justice. He defended himself. There was a riot. Shouldn't have been there. People did attack him. I think Anthony Hubert's is obviously much more tragic than Rosenbaum's. Rosenbaum was like a child predator, as well as he
was also mentally ill. I hear he might have had. I don't know if it's mentally ill the right word, but I think he has some sort of bipolar disorder where like in that situation that's not a good thing.
There's so many things in that, again, because this country doesn't take mental health seriously. It's so much of these things.
Every component goes layers behind it. It's
so many. The nuance upon nuance upon nuance is so horrible, because the thing is that when the Jacob Blake shooting happened, nobody knew he had a knife. And it is important. Like, listen, I know people are like, what do you mean he had a knife? Like, are you siding with the police on? Like, no. Here's the thing. This is again. We're going to get broader of why this is important, because first off, the people got mad over the shooting immediately because there was a Facebook video of it happening. Mm-hmm. It was clear that he got shot in the back. It was from the video you couldn't tell if he was armed at all. The police were right on top of him and they shot him. And there was even a lot of people who were like, well, if he's right behind him, why didn't he just grab him? Like, these police are trained to do takedowns. Why did they just have to shoot
grab him, hit him, pull him?
So we have that as our main evidence. Mm-hmm. But let's remember, a few months, not even a few months, in weeks before that, you have George Floyd, you have Breonna Taylor's, you have Ahmaud Arbery. So you have 3 black people get killed by the Ahmaud Arbery is literally insanely, like they did it's racially motivated and killed him. So there we have that. We have the government abusing its power and just breaking into people's houses and then shooting an innocent woman who was just living there, which was Breonna Taylor's. And then we have the police detaining someone and then kneeling on their neck for 9 minutes and then they die. So that's so you have all those 3 and everyone's upset about those for good reason. And then you have Kenosha's.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. Because if we had a sane, just society where the police weren't out of their mind, where we didn't have institutionalized racism, where we had proper training, where we handled situations right, and if these communities that are underrepresented had the economic stimulus that they require to be successful, right? And which again pits a lot of like the justification of like hating marginalized groups by racists. when the Jacob Blake thing would have happened, the majority of society would have been if we had all the wrong things corrected, would have been, well, what happened here? Something really went wrong here. Why?
Yeah.
And we would have been able to go through the proper steps. This is what happened in the case. This is why the officer did what he did. But instead, we have the Kenosha officers don't have body cameras, which is insulting. I mean, that's an insulting thing.
If we don't after all this, like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Kenosha, a city of 100,000 people, the police don't have body cameras. It's insulting.
The third or fourth biggest city in the state.
We're right next to one of the most segregated cities, actually the most segregated city in America, which is Milwaukee, which is reflected in Kenosha.
Yeah.
We had a mayor who didn't do anything this entire time through the entire process.
Haven't heard a peep.
We have a governor who even after that, didn't send the proper, personnel to make sure the city didn't get burned down. It didn't get burned down, but that private property didn't get burned down. More people didn't get hurt.
He took a long time.
He took a long time
and didn't do enough.
It took the president to do something.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the biggest one, number 5, after everything happened, nothing changed.
Yep, because you remember the verdict on Jacob Blake?
But not even with the verdict. I'm just saying, like, no one really made any grander speech in any high place of politics. The mayor, the governor, any state representative was like, maybe we should do something to help our marginalized communities. No one made that speech. So, hey.
No one wrote any articles. Like, no one of any sort of importance did any sort of deep dive into, like, no one did any sort of real investigative journalism. Nobody really came through with that goal. And, like, it was almost like we were just kind of left out to dry. We were. The city was just kind of left. And they told us to go fuck ourselves, basically.
And what people forget, and we mentioned this on podcasts before, the entire Midwest has been hung up to dry. Yeah, the entire Midwest has been hung up to dry. The racial problems we have here, the economic problems we have here. I shouldn't say racial problems. The racial disparities. Problems is a... No, I don't want to use that word.
That's a problem. That word.
The economic problems that we have here, the community problems, the education, the whole 9 yards of things that we have, we're not addressing because the infrastructure is horrible. The industries are gone. We are an old time that is. The Midwest is golden era is over, and it's just trying to cope with the effects of after that.
Now we're in a slow transition to a more. Where we're kind of going back to that, like, big coal, big oil stage where you have companies like Amazon being the highest employer in the state.
Right.
And that might look good on paper.
Actually, Johnson & Johnson is. Johnson & Johnson is the biggest company in Wisconsin.
I think Amazon's in Kenosha. Is the biggest employer.
Amazon's, like, I think, the second biggest employer in the country.
Right.
Okay, so... Imagine how that would affect the Midwest. A place that I said somebody, a place that is probably has been like one besides like Appalachia, the slowest to like modernize, the slowest to modernize the workforce, modernize workers' rights, modernize like pay, things like that.
$7.25. We're still at $7.25 for the minimum wage.
I keep hearing there's going to be a raise that's supposed to be raised to like $18. I don't know. I've been hearing that from a few people, but like what I'm saying is like that predicament of being like not prepared for like a real confrontation with the deep human problems that we have, like being that unprepared is what led to is what has us in the position that the city's in now.
Right.
And that's probably why Milwaukee's in such a position as well for similar reasons. But that I don't think anybody like is really. There's not many people who are capable, who have the ability to really talk about that wider net,
right?
Because that might, pin the blame on certain people. What was the reason that the Midwest is like this?
And also, it takes an hour-long podcast to talk about it. No one wants to listen to that because it's a lot easier to do it in a 5 minute. It's a lot easier to just play politics in a 1 minute clip. It's a lot easier. Everyone's lives feel easier when they do that. And the other thing about it, and I want to go to this because I do want to say this on the podcast because I feel like we probably did say some things that people disagree with or angry about, and that's fine. You can be upset about them. We're not your enemy. We don't stand with Kyle Rittenhouse. We're not political. I don't care. But truly, I want to say this because we do understand this. If Kyle Rittenhouse was black, did the same thing, he wouldn't even have made it to the court steps. And I truly believe that. And if he did make it to the court steps, the verdict would have been to life, 25 to life, because that's the system we live in. And I do believe that. This is the problem. The Kyle Rittenhouse verdict is the racially biased justice system. So if white people have that privilege, then it's the correct verdict. Because remember, he didn't kill anybody in a marginalized group. It was white on white crime. If Kyle Rittenhouse was black, he either would have walked up to the police and they would have pepper sprayed him and shot him with pepper rounds, and they would arrest them in Kenosha, and this trial would have been completely, utterly different, and you would have seen truly a horrendous mark on this country. And I really believe that. I believe that the justice system, the prison system, so many things, it's harder if you're part of the African American community to live in America versus a white person. And I want to say that because I do believe that. Because you know what? I used to not believe that. I used to think the whole idea of white privilege was really stupid. I used to think that critical race theory, really early stages, I'm talking 2015, 2016, was dangerous. I thought it was dumb. But now that I've taken the time to speak with people, with black people, what's your experience like, and had those conversations, I've had the chance to read literature on the black experience in America, the history of the black experience in America. Reading about, a lot of the great speakers, Du Bois, Washington.
James Baldwin.
No, Washington.
Yes.
James Baldwin?
Yeah.
Hold on. I don't know that one. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, what these people represented, the ideas, the arguments, the change, and now we're here now. It is dangerous. It is not dangerous to believe in critical race theory, but it's dangerous to not. It's dangerous to not accept the notion that there is a different America for marginalized group. And if you're a white person who did grow up in a nice suburban town in the Midwest, which a lot of people we know have, we didn't. I didn't. I mean, you grew. I didn't.
I grew up in a very closed off neighborhood from the city.
I didn't.
By the lake.
I grew up in a half Hispanic household, a half white household. My parents are divorced. My grandparents, I learned from them some of the racial things that they had to go through, being Mexican, and being a little darker, in some cases a lot more darker. From them, their experience, their view on the world. And now that I've kind of gotten that chance, when things like the Kyle Rittenhouse case happen, I don't want to say that it's not clean cut. The verdict of not guilty is truly not the right words. Because, hold on, wait, I have a big thought.
Okay.
It's truly not the right words because, yes, in the justice system, he is not guilty. It was self-defense. The pain and the representation and the amount of progress that was undone in a single night, the ability to communicate effectively, to have the conversations that we need to have, when it comes to that, he's 100% guilty because he ruined that for the city. He ruined our chances of trying to learn, of trying to build, of trying to create something beautiful. And
we said earlier, like we acknowledged throughout the episode that the problems are beyond race as well. Not that race isn't one of the largest lenses to like view these problems through, but that, and critical race theory being part of that education, but like the problem that like the desire to communicate and solve these problems isn't a racial instinct,
And it's not political.
It's
human.
That's truly it. Like that's what this city was deprived of. I'm sure that's what Minneapolis has been deprived of because it's all been politicized with the whole defund the police thing. Like
the media picking sides.
The media like just picking at it like vultures. They're probably still waiting when they can return to that story.
Right. And we saw them because even when we had 15 people in front of the courthouse, the vultures were out. The 20 media people,
literally
20 media tents, all the lights and cameras, the vultures were out. And that's what they are. I hope, and they don't understand this, we literally live in a time where Donald Trump was right. It's all fake news. But what he didn't want to admit is that everything that supported him as well was also not real. And he knew that. And he used that as a tool. And guess what? If people say that the institution of media in this country is dangerous, we didn't start it. They did. They started
100%.
They started it. They made this country be hyper politicized because guess what? At the end of the day, they know that people only read the headlines, and we should teach people to read the whole article. We should teach better news consumptions, but we don't, as a failure of the school system. But at the same time, this American school system is dealing with babysitting and teaching people at the same time. Really hard to get all the extra important things to make a functioning society when people treat school as a babysitting service.
Well, and hard to decide what those important things even are. I don't think it even, who's making that decision? Who is that one bitch who was in the Trump administration who was Board of Education or something like that, and she
Betsy Davos.
Betsy Davos. Yeah, people like her who have this, like they have the demeanor of like somebody like my mom, but like when you actually talk to them, they're like a cold cut corporate like just
vulture,
evil, a rock of a person,
amoral, disdain,
just a paper cut of a human being.
So that's what we're dealing with. And like as citizens born and raised in Kenosha, from kids to the start, my entire life has been here. I've seen the economic hardship. Sorry, I'm just getting caught up here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't.
It's all right.
It's just it's just so frustrating. Because it is it's so painful to watch.
And now we're really seeing how hurt people are. Like we actually are. We really are seeing how hurt people really are. How damaged, how sometimes helpless or hopeless people not even on all sides, like in every community are. You know, you look at whether it's like teachers trying to, you know, they have to go to work and like treat kids like things are normal when shit at home is not normal, and like how things in their city could be getting really dangerous, and they don't know how to. You can't teach somebody how to prepare a kid like all these kids for life, because we don't even have a solid idea of what life should be like. We haven't set the system up to be that easy, or somebody hasn't set it up for us. And we're seeing a lot of those people who are frustrated and they want to find the culprit, but they're done. They're done.
Is this this city's tapped out? It's and it's just the constant bombardment, the constant this brain melting. It's there's people trying to profit off of the trauma of the city, and it's disgusting, and it's revolting, and it saddens me because I worry that that justice will never be served, that will never be, that no one will ever have to own up to that, because there's so many people, so many heartless, amoral, greedy people who they get to watch from on top of the mountain and watch all the peasants run around with their heads cut off, and they just look at like a city like Kenosha is just meat bodies running around, just people there to produce
From
more
the
things.
Outside, they can look at us like that. Kenosha needs to go back to being. Kenosha needs to go back to doing what it wants. It needs to go back to like doing its own thing. We need to go back to like having a real pride in like being a larger small city, having real community, having a real sense of like you ever have a friend who like gets really hurt from a relationship, and like I've had friends when I was younger, it was a lot like this. I've even been like this where you get hurt from a really bad relationship and it's over, and like suddenly they turn into this, they start getting this fantasy in their head of being like a monster, like being a fuck, like just going out and getting as many girls as possible, like going out and just like causing destruction and like trying to like beat the pain like that, or beat the person, overcome that. I'm afraid that might happen to Kenosha. We might think that we're forced now to play on the big stage with all these other sick manipulated cities, institutions. Right. Like we're not equipped, and it's proven now we're not equipped to be national headlines every day. Who is equipped to do that? Not the minds of the people who live here. We were never born for that here. That's not what we were born and raised for here. We were born and raised here to be close with each other. I mean, that's why we're here right now. Like, that's what having this podcast in this city is right now.
And I'm worried that now that like our community's gone through like all of this like long drawn out trauma and this like these horrific events, that now like in the aftermath, like truly now that the trial's over and like it's done, it's like it's just left us more divided, because there's still people on this side or that side that are just spewing hate at each other because of frustration and political dunking. And it just sucks that like it feels like the actual like communal healing, where like people, even if they're like, oh yeah, like he did nothing wrong, it's like you still have to recognize that like it caused so much pain in our community, and it like hit people differently. And I feel like some people just don't give a shit, and that's what's so frustrating to me. It's just
like a great flood just came through the city of large fake media interests, like
non-local
ideology came like a great flood through the city. And like we did not have an arc to get everybody, like we did not have we didn't know how to herd together properly.
Right.
We didn't know how to weather this storm properly in Kenosha.
And all the tools that we were given to do it were sabotaged or just not present.
Yeah. They were taken away strategically.
And
by the media.
I don't know. And entering as we move on from this, I hope, it's just sad because I don't know when, because there's so many people who, the Tucker Carlson, who's the other late night host for MSNBC? She's got the short hair.
Rachel Maddow.
It's the Rachel Maddows. It's the Tucker Carlsons. It's John Oliver. It's Kimmel.
It's Noah. What's his name? Trevor Noah.
It's it's Steven Crowder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's Steven. It's
Shapiro.
It's Shapiro.
It's Owens. Candace Owens.
And I know we're listing like only conservatives. I don't actually know a lot of more liberal talk show besides.
Yeah.
Well, no, I actually Trevor Noah.
Cuomo.
Yeah. Right.
Jake Tapper.
Right.
Yeah. Chris Cuomo.
And they're not from here. They don't care to be here. They don't like what this is. We're now a blip on a map for the worst reasons. And truly, it's sad to see so many people, they get glued to those personalities and they go, this is, the frustrations I think a lot of people have at the politics, when it comes to politics, when it does become racist and stuff, so much of it has to do with your own ability, your own self-actualization, your own position in this ever-changing landscape in society, that you project those frustrations onto everyone else. The reason why, I'm struggling to pay my bills is because of the damn liberals, because Joe Biden keeps making the gas go up. And the reason I can't go to school, I can't afford to go to school is because these Republicans keep blockading everything we want to do. And it's like, maybe it's no longer the right and left. Maybe, yeah, I agree with more things with Democrats, but at the same time, you look at everyone's track record, it really doesn't matter. They're not, They don't represent us truly, and these media companies don't represent us, and they don't care to look at us in a humanizing light. They don't care to look at us as a real community, as a place with real people. They look at us as a place to start their next political stance. They look at us as a place to run the next clip.
To fire off the next tweet.
They look at us, the next tweet that's going to go off. And the sad part is that so many people in the city who genuinely don't have things, who genuinely are struggling, they fall victim to that because they also don't know what to do because no one's providing them any real answers. The only answer that's being provided to them is to be angry. Be angry, be frustrated. Talk about this at work. Make this hard for your family. Don't invite people to your Thanksgiving because of politics. Don't have people over for Christmas for politics.
Cancel your parents.
Cancel your parents. Cancel your kids. Don't talk to your kids. Your kids are liberals. Yeah. Your kids have dangerous ideas. And if you do talk to your kids, tell them why they're wrong. Don't listen to them. And the same thing goes for your kids. Your parents are dumb. They're morons. They don't know anything
right.
Don't
communicate with them. Don't be constructive in any way. Be deconstructive.
Be deconstructive. When you go to work, politicize your work.
Yeah.
Find out who agrees and agrees with you. If you have a position of power, if someone disagrees with you politically, don't give them a promotion. Don't increase their salary because their ideas are dangerous. They're dangerous to you and they're dangerous for the world.
They're coming to kill you.
They're coming to get you.
They're going to be the next Rittenhouse, or you will.
They're MS-13. Yeah. They're Kyle Rittenhouse. No, they're going to support a group of people that are going to come to your town.
They're going to come and kill your son. They're going to kill your daughter.
They're going to kill your family. They're going to burn down your city. That's what this is becoming. That's what people think. It's going to violence. And when we start having half of the community wish death upon the other half, you have death. And you don't get
Kyle
anywhere.
Rittenhouse. You have Kyle Rittenhouse. At that. When that was the situation. You had a group of people wishing death on somebody that they thought was an enemy.
These aren't people enemies. These aren't enemies.
No, that's
You're not
the whole
in a
thing.
war. This isn't a fantasy.
No. We have been so domesticated as a country that the drive for war, like the drive for justice, the drive for to fight for something that has been in us for thousands of years, millions of years, has been there's no outlet for that. There's no real outlet for that
right.
that people can access through education or through their financial means, so now it comes out in these destructive ways.
Right. And this might be the most important point in the podcast.
Yeah.
If you as an individual don't get this in check right now, that whole thing of like, I don't have an outlet for this. How can I do this positively? The wrong person, a big bad wolf is going to come around. He's going to try to run the country. All right. And he's going to find an outlet for that, because it wasn't ever going to be Donald Trump. Whoever thought Donald Trump was going to be this big fascist dictator was wrong. Mm-hmm. They were wrong. And anyone who thinks that Joe Biden is on the right believes that he's going to be a big fascist dictator. They're wrong. This country hasn't seen real fascism. And if you keep fucking around like this, if you keep politicizing everything that you do,
your life,
if you keep every instance that you can, your identity is directly tied to politics. If you ruin it, your job, you ruin your family, you ruin your community, and the most that you do to try to make your stand is a little post on Facebook, a little post on Twitter, right? Getting triggered, and that's left and right, because I've seen it on both sides. Triggered everybody. And just the mention that someone could not agree with you, they will come. The real fascists will come. The person who has the silver tongue, who can tell you a story. If we get rid of these people, if we do it this way, this country's going to be like you never dreamed.
Oh my God. Somebody is, some charismatic leader is going to run in the same way that happened with, were you telling me about this? The same way that happened in Germany? Somebody was telling me about this right before, like maybe a decade before Hitler. There was the same sequence of events that we're seeing, where there's this gradual gliding into fascism.
As the economic climate gets worse, things get more expensive, inflation's up, people don't know what to do. Like and I mentioned this the other day, and people might find this somewhat sexist, but it's not. It's more like, it's bad when men don't have jobs. Because in America, your job gives you something to do, and it gives you purpose. Hopefully, you should be paid rightly to live,
to provide for your life and be
do
fulfilled.
Your job. When the prices of things go up, when inflations go up, because the rate of men graduating high school and college is going down, the rate of suicide for men's going up. It's also going up for every other group, but it's going very high for men. The reason that's dangerous is because we, and for good reason, associate aggression and violence with men. 95% of the prison population's men. That's a reason why it's that way, because of that outlet is not checked. If the right person comes around, those disgruntled men who they're not okay with their own self-deficiencies, they want to blame someone. Someone else is the reason why I can't provide food. Someone else is the reason I'm a dirtbag father. Someone else is the reason I can't get the job I want to. Someone else is the reason I'm in tens of thousands of dollars debt.
I can't hold a relationship. I can't take care of anybody. I can't do this.
They go,
can't keep friends.
Well, if you listen to me, I'll make you the man you want to be. Mm-hmm. And then they pick up a gun.
And they join an army.
And they join an army. They join an identity group. That's what happens. So people need to realize the stage is being set. And what people don't get is they go, well, America's this free country. If we have fascism, they're going to nationalize all the industry. And the capitalists don't want that. The capitalists want power of their own world. What you don't understand about that statement is that fascism for the monopolistic capitalists is the greatest answer, because this time, instead of just owning your industry, you get to be directly married to the government. So instead of going, we need to ban these people on our platform that are causing some problems, you go, I'm an associate of the party, of the Fascist Party of America. I'm friends with the dictator. Hey.
Maybe I am the dictator.
Hey. Kill them.
Yeah.
Line them up.
Lock them up. Shoot them up.
Shoot them. You no longer have to play this petty game of, well, we got to make sure that our little number keeps going up on the docket, or else we're not going to. We have to make sure our investors are happy. You immediately, when the the government nationalizes your industry, you are married directly to the government. You don't care about the magic number anymore. For a business, that is the most freeing thing that you could ever have.
Everything becomes so simple.
When the government goes, hey, the way that people look at you doesn't matter anymore. You have the money. because we take it from all the people and give it to you, right? And if you have any problems, let's say anyone gets a little mouthy on your platform and maybe starts disrespecting the overarching party, kill them. And you can do that.
Or drive them insane through social media, through their own words and platforms and homepage and For You page.
Get their community to turn on them.
You have your IP
Ostracize
address.
them.
Dox them.
Arrest them.
Hey, we'll use the IRS. We'll audit them every
defamation.
year. We'll audit them every year.
We'll get them on assault or child porn, or we'll get them on.
We'll we'll either we'll send the IRS after them. We'll make sure they can't get any loans, so they'll never be able to maneuver out this country. Oh, their kid wants to go to college. We'll deny them FAFSA too. Actually, we'll deny them from going to college anyway. We'll just do that. And then if they keep being mouthy, we'll kill them. Don't worry about it.
We'll send the deputized militia, of fanatic, political ideologues after them.
No,
we'll send the freedom police to go get them.
They'll steal the child. They'll indoctrinate them into their own program.
Yeah,
and they'll turn them into secret police. Agents. This is not some fantasy.
This happened.
This happened in Europe for 40 years.
This was real. They'll go. Hey,
more like 60 years.
Your parents are dangerous. This happened in China. This happened in Russia.
Happening in China, happened in Russia, happened in Germany.
And they go, your parents are dangerous. Your parents have dangerous thoughts.
Turn them in.
Turn them in. And you know what? We'll bring you to a good family. You'll join us because we're the real family you need. You need to trust the party. Trust the plan. Trust the truth that we provide to you.
It's a religion.
Because there's no other truth besides what we give you. This country wants to be a cult. Because of the way we act, this country loves cults. They love, we like war. We like using war. We like identity politics. And we like violence.
And brands.
And when you put all those together, you get the great American empire. And the thing is that, yes, has the American empire done horrible things like genocide, slavery, racism, ruining families across America, ruining specific eras? Of course. But guess what? They did it under the American flag, this big, beautiful thing that represents freedom for all. And when you do it under that, things get a little confusing because some people are like, well, we made mistakes, but we can get better. But what if you change that flag and you keep the stripes on it, but instead of stars, you have not a swastika, but something new in the place of it. And now it's a new symbol. And now the Statue of Liberty doesn't mean what it means anymore. And now there's these big banners that go over Congress, and there's torches, golden torches, and there's men in black suits, these black military-like plans, and they have emblems on there that let them know they're on the right team. And if you don't like those emblems on their little uniforms, you're an enemy of not the country, of humanity, because their truth is the only one for humanity. That's what people don't understand. That's the point.
It's going to be that easy to put people into that box, to put people into the box of first it's your side's fighting for humanity.
Right.
Now it's your side won, your side's the party, your side's the country. Our side is only humanitarian, principled group of humans. And that's, in 75 years, some urban explorer is going to be traveling to this continent and look at our architecture, if this was the case, like they look at the Soviet architecture.
Right.
And that architecture is hauntingly beautiful.
It's brutalist. It's so
the statues
nostalgic.
It's abstract. It's kind of modern in a way. It's not quite postmodern. It's kind of modern. It's the way that they they make symmetry, the way that they emblemize their people and their mission. That's what architecture, political or fascist architecture is. It's this semblance of an idea. It's the ghost of an idea.
Yes.
And at some point, if we keep fucking around, some urban explorer is going to make a vlog of the abandoned
Chicago,
like
the
destroyed
Chicago,
buildings.
Yeah, they destroyed Chicago
Yeah.
housing.
Yeah.
That was that's reminiscent of this time in America after the fall of the American
pre-World War, pre-Fash War, Fash America. You know.
We're at an hour 5 right now.
Okay. Well, let's wrap it up, and
let's give it a sec.
I don't want to wrap it up. I mean, we'll slowly.
We'll just.
But for everyone listening who's gotten this far, which I know some of you do, we can see that some of you do.
And I love you.
We
love you.
Keep watching.
Keep going. You're almost there.
I know this was a rather interesting episode. And when it comes down to it, a lot of the reasons why we started the podcast, we started this right after we started this of last year during right in December 28th. We're coming up on 1 year pretty soon. When you listen to episode 1, the best one, literally titled the best one, we're bad at this. We're still not great at this, but we're better.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that going from then to now that to talk about a very serious topic like this, we can. Mm-hmm. There's a lot less stuttering, muttering over words. The thoughts are actually there. The story that we're trying to tell and I guess the community that we're trying to represent is real. And at the end of the day, what everyone needs to realize is that, you have to turn off the BS. You have to be open-minded. You have to realize that some of your friends and family are, in some instance, acting as little foot soldiers for the media. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't talk to them. Doesn't mean you should let them go. Doesn't mean that you should not give them love and care and humanity as anyone else. Because at the end of the day, politics is important, but your life and the people around you are much more important. The moments that you share with your nephew and nieces, your cousins, your brothers and sisters, your grandpa and grandma and grandpa, your mom and dad, and your friends, the ones that you see as family, and even sometimes your coworkers.
Yeah,
those people
have that.
Matter way more than Cuomo, than Tucker Carlson,
than Xi Jinping, than Joe Biden.
And
sometimes you just gotta not read the news and call your mom on her birthday.
Right.
Sometimes you just gotta do the things that you would normally do if politics didn't exist.
And
most of the time you should do that.
Become a master of your own life. Find out who you are. Understand what's important to you. And just try to be a good person. And take care of yourself like someone who loves you would take care of you.
And don't just listen to people coming to you with problems. This episode is a lot of us listing the crimes of this country and the deep issues we have in this country. But outside of this, what I want to do is like Bryce, when we go to your house and there's a lot of people that come by that have, a lot of people are solution oriented that I've met through you. And that's kind of something that's a good thing. I think we kind of all need that, because in this country, in this city, in this time, we're very problem oriented. We're very conflict oriented, and I think then we stop listening to people who want to present some solutions and who want to maybe look at things through they want to say, let's actually take a step back. And taking a step back is when you look at the solutions, is when you see the solutions, rather. When you do something with somebody where you go, you talk with somebody and they actually bring something positive to your life, that's a solution in and of itself to these problems that you're talking about. because it takes you out of this headspace of thinking in this giant group collective where you all have to go to hell together in a handbasket. It's like, no, you can all step back and work on things yourself. You can all do your dance, and then you can come back and you can actually be with each other. You can actually hear each other instead of just letting it all rattle around inside you. You know, letting it kind of come, letting it go back and forth between each other, letting people give that what they need to give you, that you give them what you need to give them. You have to go back and forth, and that is the exact resistance to this political fervent violence and conflict and divide that we have, is actually letting things pass through, letting things go back to their cycle.
I think the media is very invested in making sure that you're thinking one way and that you're not trying to think of solutions, but you're only outraged about the problems. And so if, you know, they win when they get you to disown your family based on politics. They win when they get, when your friends or your community, they win when they get you to stop thinking at the problem, you know, versus being like, okay, this is the problem, this is how I feel, I know that you look at it this way and this is how you feel, but if I just cut off with you and I just say, well, that person's fucked, and I ignore them, then like the media and the large interests that stoke division, they win. And we have to be able to like look past that like the lens we're looking through and actually be able to just try to find common ground and not lose that community and not poison the well, not like, you know, give up on each other, because that's like the true solution is to like forgive and move past and build and find, you know, a positive outcome, even though we're being told that fucking everything sucks and it's all someone else's fault.
And finding our stability, you know, in a moderate sense through an adventure. Like, it's an adventure to go through problems with people. It's an adventure to have like a very sometimes controversial or just like a taxing kind of conversation. Like, that's a bit of an adventure, but it can prepare you for then the real adventure you're going to go on in life.
Right.
I don't think we were meant to just reach a point of stability and then stop doing anything ever. Like, we need to have a little bit of, I mean, the kind of course of human nature, human history seems to be like these giant ups and downs, these peaks and valleys, where in those peaks or in those valleys where there's like instability, a lot of great art comes from that. Now, whether or not this stability or this instability is sustainable in a sense, if we can sustain chaos, like we can have a chaotic society
and be sane
and be able to balance it out in an equal way, in the proper way, in a way that like moves things forward and not repeating a cycle.
Right.
That's kind of what I've always seen about human history. I feel that there's like what would we do if we didn't have problems to face? Like, what would we do if there wasn't a call to adventure? What would we do without that?
Right.
You know,
be robots.
Be robot. I mean, exactly. Because like but then what? Like, so that's kind of maybe a better way to look at like tackling these problems that we have in our society. Is it kind of is a call to adventure when you look at it from a real point of view. When you look at it from like the go talk to somebody point of view, like let the flow, let the exchange happen. Not let's storm MSNBC. Not let's storm the Capitol, or let's tie Andrew Cuomo to 4 horses and tell much. Like, that's, you know, that's not, I mean, that'd be fun, but that's not like the adventure that that'd actually be really nice. But that's not what I'm saying.
I know what you're talking.
You know, we have to go forward in that way.
Right.
But there's always going to be problems. But that's the call to adventure is what I'm saying. That's where we're going.
Well, with that note, we'd like to thank everybody for listening.
We love Kenosha. We want Kenosha to help the people in it.
We love our listeners. We love Bryce.
We love Bryce.
Love you guys.
We love Eric, our other editor.
Eric. We love Kate.
We love Case.
Love Case.
But thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. This will be coming out on Friday. This is when you'll be listening to. We're doing Friday releases from now on. But you will, check us out everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Check out our producers. That's a beauty. And check out the people who help us with the studio. Kenosha. www.ikenosha.com. Please. The link is in our link tree. And
I think that's all.
And that's all. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Don't lose hope.